Hey guys, Gable from Ungraceful Toad here, and today I have another Banpresto figure for you. And rather than a full review, I'm going to do something I'm going to call a let's look, or let's take a look at, because I bought this second hand and it didn't come with the original box, and it's been displayed and stuff, so giving it, I can't really give a full review because of that, so we'll just take sort of a quicker look, but I'll still do the size comparisons and give you my overall thoughts. So as I said, this is a Banpresto figure from a DXF range, which is a huge range of prize figures they did for Naruto and a few other franchises. Originally released in 2012, and there have been quite a few problems with these figures. I'll go through sort of the Bankatana and cross-eyedness is something that's been seen a lot in these figures, and there's tons and tons of counterfeiting of these DXF figures, so be incredibly careful. Because I managed to find it for so cheap, I just went for it, and I figured it's not that much to lose, even if I can't get my money back. So the first thing I want to talk about is this figure's base is just absolutely ginormous. When I do the measurements for this, I'll give you the exact measurement, but it's so big it makes it sort of a pain to display all this stuff. But honestly, that's my big major gripe with this figure, and this first thing I noticed when I got it was just how big and ridiculous I think the base is. But again, I'm paying near to nothing for this figure, sort of 20 quid, 30 quid, just what you'll see for this figure, and when we're talking about the figure collecting hobby, it's not very much at all. So let's take another look at him. So first I'll focus in on the problem areas that some people have with this figure, and sort of what I think I've got an alright one. So the katana is slightly bent, and it's one of those things where give it a little bit of play, and over time you'll probably be able to bend it back. You might be able to even dip it in hot water and bend it back and let it cool down and set, but I'm not really willing to take that risk, because honestly I'm not that bothered by it. But this is the display angle you should do for this figure, because then you see the eyes sort of come out this way, they follow you, they look at you. And some people had cross-eyed, so this eye, the far eye, would be over there, looking at the background, so his eyes would be split apart. But from this angle, his eyes look good, and I think that's how it's designed to be, with his arms crossing over and you see the symbol. Because obviously from the front his eyes look a bit weird because he's looking over there. So, now we've got past sort of the minute problems. The first positive thing I want to say is the shading on this figure is done incredibly well for something so cheap. As you can see how vibrant the orange shading is on the pants particularly. Although, compared to the shirt, it's not done anywhere near as well on the shirt, but it's still done quite well. And that's one of the things that made me buy this figure, is when I was looking at this, I just thought, for something so cheap, this really is really well shaded. Got a bit of a line down here from where it's been manufactured, but again, painting here is done really well. It's really clean. There's no sort of spillage over each of the areas. The white bits are white and the black bits are black. Really clean. We've got lines for the pockets that are done well. A bit of a bleed there with the black. Just minute stuff on it, but from the display angle you're not going to be able to see it. Zip, it's done alright. There's a bit of dust here and there from where the guy I bought it off has displayed it, but all in all, the paintwork on this is done quite well. The hair is coming up a bit more vibrant on camera than it is in real life. It's kind of a bit washed out, and I'm not sure if that's because that's the colour it's meant to be, or it's been washed out from being in direct sunlight. But it's sort of an acceptable blonde, although it is almost sort of like it's got a slight white saturation to it in real life. Uzumaki symbol's done quite well. You can see a bit of the orange underneath where it's not being quite touched up well enough. But again, paintwork's fair enough, it's fine for something this cheap. Again, up here we've got a lot of dust on the tyres there, but it doesn't go into the hair. The black stays clean, so I guess it's fair to say paintwork's done quite well. And this pose is quite nice. It's sort of very classic. You see pretty much every character in the show will at some point have done this pose, although I don't quite know what's going on with his back arm. But it's nice enough. It's a nice figure for this sort of Naruto age range, where there aren't a lot of figures that aren't incredibly dynamic, so to have a standing version of just sort of teenage Naruto is quite nice. So I'll take a quick look at sort of the sizes and stuff, and then we'll talk and do some size comparisons and talk about our overall thoughts. So from the bottom to the base to the top of his head, he's up just shy of 17 centimeters. The base itself is almost 17 centimeters again, so it's just as wide as he is tall. But the width of the figure himself, from shoulder to his edge of his arm, is about 7 centimeters. Here he is on a deck off shelf by himself. Here he is next to 1/8 scale Johto Okujo. He is next to 1/6 scale Johto Okujo. Here he is next to another Banpresto Naruto. This is the version from Boruto. You can go back and watch that video in my Naruto playlist. It should be 1 or 2 videos back. So to wrap this up, pretty much I think this is a really nice sort of cheap figure, especially if you can get a version that doesn't have a Benkatana or cross-eyed. But the thing that sells it to me really is the fact that paintwork is so clean for such a cheap figure, and the shading on his clothes, specifically the orange, is done incredibly well. So I think, you know, if you're big into Naruto, you've got a collection of Naruto himself figures, this is a nice little one to add because it's so cheap, and because the shading is done well, it'll sit in really nice. The big base is kind of annoying, and the fact you can get versions with messed up bits is another slight annoyance, but if you get a decent version and get it cheap enough, I'd say yeah, go for it if you're a Naruto fan. But if you're just looking for a Naruto figure, or you're only getting 1 or 2, there are definitely better places to look. But, you know, if you're on a budget, yeah, I'd say go for it if you want a cheap, sort of just nice, slightly above average figure with some great shading. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.